All right. Well, I have 2 minutes after the hour, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Martin Rosendale, CEO of the Maryland Technology Council. Welcome to our Industry Virtual Series for 2021. Our sponsors today are Alexandria Real Estate, AstraZeneca, the Maryland Department of Commerce, Pfizer, Pharma, and VWR Avantor. So thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. The Maryland Technology Council is the industry trade association representing the technology and life science industries throughout Maryland. Together with our members, we're improving the business climate in Maryland and helping companies that save, secure, and improve lives around the globe. The Industry Virtual Series is designed to introduce you to programs and executives that are also supporting industry innovators and entrepreneurs in the region. Our topic today is the future of manufacturing. My guest is Bill Cronin, the Chief Revenue Officer for Zometry. And in the background is also Aaron Lichtig, who is the Vice President of Customer Marketing for Zometry and happens to be the only winner of Jeopardy that I know. So Aaron and Bill, welcome.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, our pleasure. So Xometry is based here in Maryland, and they're transforming custom manufacturing around the globe. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. You will find the chat and Q&A features at the bottom of your screen. At least they should be at the bottom of your screen. I will be monitoring them as the conversation proceeds. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or in the chat room as you think of them, as the questions come up. Also, your microphones will be on mute. When we get to the Q&A, you'll be able to ask questions again through the Q&A feature and through the chat feature. This Zoomcast is being recorded so that others will be able to watch it or listen to it at a later date. So if you know anybody that you feel should have joined us today and wasn't able to, you'll be able to direct them to the Maryland Tech Council website, and they'll be able to take a look at the Zoomcast there. So Bill, why don't we start with taking a minute and give us some idea of your background, how you got to Zometry, and tell us why you're so passionate about what Zometry is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thanks for having me here. And you know, when I think to my background, I'm going to go way back to when I was a kid. And I actually told people at the time that I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. I wanted to build rockets. I wanted to build planes. I wanted to build ships. And I did not accomplish that. But I'm going to jump ahead in the rest of my career, because I always think it's incredible to kind of see how things maybe come full circle within someone's career. So I started my career in advertising, launching new brands, packaged goods brands for Kellogg's. I worked in razors. I worked in selling Trident gum, kind of a core packaged goods background. And then I had a boss who moved to MasterCard, and she said, "Hey, why don't you come and work for me at MasterCard?" It was right around the time they had created the whole Priceless campaign, and they were very focused on building the business around the world. So I had this great job where I got to go and work with the kind of smaller, you know, and the offices were like 20 people in Australia. That was the growing the MasterCard business there. I worked in Japan, I worked in Korea, and then spent a lot of time in Europe, to the point that they sent me over there to live there for a while. So I ran MasterCard's European marketing during the time that they did their IPO in 2006. And then I moved to DC after about 12 years with MasterCard, worked at USA Today, and then worked at a fast-growing marketplace business, a good, well-known, successful business at Wedding Wire, where I learned, you know, for the first time, got to work in a smaller company. And I think, you know, in many ways at MasterCard, I was actually enjoying more of the startup life in all these little markets around the world than I'd even realized at the time, kind of working within a larger company. And so I was at Wedding Wire, and I happened to have literally a recruiter that I knew, and I got introduced to Randy Altschuler and Lawrence Zurif, who had this vision. And they, you know, Xometry was about 30 people, and they sat down and they explained to me about what custom manufacturing in the US looks like. And I got excited, because when we talk about a manufacturing in America, it's often about like, okay, here's a Foxconn factory in Wisconsin employing tens of thousands of people. But the reality is that there are tens of thousands, about 200,000 manufacturers in the US that are less than 20 people. And all of these small shops, they're doing machining, they're doing injection molding, they're doing 3D printing. They are doing work for all of the engineers in both top companies, small companies. So it's this amazing kind of manufacturing industry that in some ways kind of goes below the radar. And what I got excited about was I just looked at it as an industry. You know, I thought about how, you know, Nike changed the sneaker industry decades ago. Airbnb changed, you know, the travel business. And I got excited about being able to, the opportunity to really be a leading digital brand in an industry that hadn't seen something like that.
That's fantastic. You mentioned small manufacturing outfits. My father is a serial entrepreneur in injection molding, and because of that, even though today I'm a microbiologist and I came up through the ranks of life sciences and therapeutics, I was a tool design engineer, taught by my father when I was growing up, and so I have the drive to build things as well. So I think that's a great story. So tell us more about Zometry, and there's a phrase that I've seen on your website that I'm really curious about, and that's the custom manufacturing on demand. I mean, we're familiar with video on demand and things like that, but what is custom manufacturing on demand?
Yeah. So I think, there's two sides to our marketplace. Zometry is a marketplace, and what we do is we make it really easy for engineers, product designers, entrepreneurs who are using 3D CAD programs to build parts. And so you look at companies like SolidWorks, Autodesk, they're using those platforms, PTC, to design and build parts. Sometimes they're doing it to build one, sometimes they're doing it to build thousands and ultimately millions, right? So custom manufacturing is really kind of, call it, initial prototyping to in many ways production. If you look at aerospace and medical device, sometimes a production run for them is 100 pieces or 500 pieces, right? So it's a lot of this kind of low to medium to high level volume production that is going on across the country all the time. And it's often like it can be one little part as part of a larger project. And we do things that are like, we help make parts on the robots at BMW that make the cars, right? So it's a mix of injection molding, it is CNC machining, it is sheet metal, it is so many different types of 3D printing. And what Xometry is really doing is we're offering all of that under one roof in one place, which is really unique because there's a lot of manufacturers who we work with kind of on the other side of our business, but you have to go to each one of them individually. And the process has just worked for many years in a very kind of analog way of sending out a file and waiting days and weeks for that manufacturer to come back with quotes and lots of back and forth. So the time in the back and forth can take days and often weeks to actually get the correct pricing and the lead time. So what Xometry does is we make it incredibly easy. We have algorithms that create pricing, and when you upload a file, you can choose how you want to make it, and we have lots of different ways to do that. And then you can put in, here are the options for how many I want to make, and the price changes. So you can literally, in some ways similar to kind of an Amazon, where you can look and plug in what you've uploaded your part of what you want to build, and you can get a price for 1 to hundreds of thousands right there. And so it takes a ton of the back and forth out from just by being able to do it within the platform. And then what Xometry does is we are then able to, once we've priced it, to share it to the correct group of manufacturers who are able to do that work. And we deliver the project through the network of thousands of manufacturers that we have.
So that's fascinating, Bill. So you're supporting both your partners, which would be the manufacturing side, as well as, I'll call them the clients, which are the ones that need manufacturing. Could you maybe just walk us through a little bit the experience, so the partner's experience and the client's experience? What does it look like for the manufacturing partners Because you mentioned you have an algorithm that determines pricing, so I imagine that they've got a lot of input into that. I would think. And then from the client's perspective, what does their experience look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk we'll start with the partners, and as a start, manufacturers, they don't pay to be a part of our platform. They have to qualify, and then they are able to get to higher level jobs by delivering on time, great quality, all the things that determine success. So for them, they simply have to they receive notices that a job is available for them, and they can choose to take it. So it's really straightforward. And they then have a time period that they understand they have to deliver it. And so Xometry as a whole is on the hook to deliver that part by that time. And for the partner, what we're also doing, because, and you talked a bit about kind of the injection molding industry, small manufacturers, cash flow is so important for them. So what we're often doing is providing quicker payment to them. In fact, we even have a payment card that we introduced. We actually had it in the plan, and then we accelerated it when COVID hit because it was so critical. We provide 30% upfront. So when you take a job from us, you get on a Visa card, you have 30% upfront that you can immediately have access to, which allows you to go buy the materials, the tooling, the other pieces that you may need to get the job before you have to wait, net 90, net 120, much later. That can often happen for small manufacturers to get paid. So we look at how we help them run their business in addition deliver work. But my job in running sales and marketing here at Xometry is very much to be the person responsible for bringing sales to all of those small manufacturers, so that we can bring a steady stream of work for them to have access to. And they're able to choose on 1 week. They might have another job coming in, and they can take space for their capacity to do something this week. And that's the game of manufacturing too, which is there's cost, but then there's also, do you have the capacity to do it, right? And so for us, and I'll get to kind of the buyer side as well next, but finding the capacity to do it right now is often really key, because there's often a lot of manufacturers that can do something, but who can start on it right now, or who has to wait 2 weeks, even if it takes them the exact amount of time to do a project. Often the buyers want to find someone who's able to do it right now to shorten their lead time.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back to the buyer side, they upload the file of what they want to build, and they're able to look at a wide range of different materials. They can choose CNC machining. They can choose sheet metal. We've got over 60 materials and 3D printing to choose from. So it's really at their fingertips to choose what they want to build. And it's really as easy as spending seconds and maybe a few minutes figuring out what you want, and then you press order, and the process has begun.
And then typically, how long would it take for them to get a response that says, okay, we've got your order, we've accepted it, and we're ready to manufacture?
We've accepted the order.
Wow.
If from time to time there is some issue that comes up, we'll let you know. But when you place the order, we are our algorithms and our data and our behavioral knowledge, because our pricing is really based on what we've seen in the market for these jobs being taken, right? Yeah. And that's what it's not us guessing at what a price should be. It's us saying this is what the data and the market is saying this type of job has gone for.
Yeah. So Bill, there's a question from Karen Galantis that I think is perfect for this point in the conversation. And she's asking about the protection of intellectual property. So I would imagine that sometimes the buyers, they have trade secrets, they have protected intellectual property. Maybe in a one-on-one quoting scenario, they might ask for an NDA to be signed. How is that kind of intellectual property protected in this process?
Yeah, we have, we are, covering it, guaranteeing the confidentiality of it. I won't get into the platform piece of it, but our manufacturers are also heavily involved in NDAs. And, the reality is the way the way parts have been sent around to manufacturers for many years is often through email and things like that. So, we are protecting it throughout the process.
Interesting. So we've all, for the last 13, 14 months, we've all been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and certainly some better than others. How has the pandemic impacted Xometry, the company specifically, but somewhat more broadly, how has it impacted your buyers and your partners?
So the pandemic started in many ways for us as China was initially affected, because we saw a lot of manufacturers looking to potentially source work in the US when China was shut down. And then frankly, it moved to the US, and then it becomes a whole issue in the US. But in many ways, what it has been is an acceleration of a couple different trends, one of which is just digital manufacturing and buying online, as well as distributed manufacturing and having to have different supply flexibility in your supply chain. And we saw that in many ways. At this time last year, we had automotive, aerospace, you name it, wide range of big companies suddenly trying to figure out how to make ventilator parts, right? And then in many ways, they were suddenly looking to do temperature measurement devices and then to do masks. So what we saw there was, in many ways, we are here to help engineers and product designers build what needs to be done across a wide range of industries. And there was just this immediate surge in terms of people trying to immediately source and build COVID-related projects, and being able to find the capacity and who can do parts like this. So, in many ways for us, it was, for me, it was often inspiring to also see our small manufacturers who were, keeping their doors open in one way or another to build essential parts, to keep things going. And in many ways, for me, that was one of the most, telling parts of kind of seeing the small and medium-sized manufacturers, who were worried about their own business, but also stepping up in a huge way to help deliver a wide range of different projects that were going to help people in a wide range of PPE and COVID-related, as well as, frankly, the regular work that needs to happen across a wide range of industries to deliver all the things that we count on as essential. So I think, as we've gone, a year into COVID, I think there are a number of trends that have ramped up then and will continue in many ways, kind of the switch to digital, like a lot of other industries, and that's the kind of on-demand piece of our business, as well as the other part of it, the distributed part. And what I think companies large and small have learned is that they have to have greater and better flexibility in their supply chains, because some of the things that you predicted, you thought you were covered could happen, you're not as predicted for, you're not as prepared for. Very few companies were prepared for not being able to get anything through China. Okay, if we can't do a ship, we'll do a plane, but what if everybody's trying to rent the planes, right? So, I think that type of thinking has created a whole range of supply chain executives who are looking to create flexibility. And that's very much what we do by utilizing a wide range of suppliers across a great number of geographies, as different states were more affected by others. Before the pandemic, I used to give the example of a hurricane approaching, the coast of Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. And what we would do in that case, and still do, is we'll go in and see the work that's happening that might be in progress in the shops that could be affected, and we'll move them to other places to ensure that they're still delivered in a timely manner. And frankly, the small manufacturers are very happy to do that. They would rather get it off their plate so they can, ensure they're taking care of their business and shutting down and being safe, and protecting themselves. So, for us, that type of flexibility from a risk management standpoint is an incredibly important part of our story.
That's amazing. So something you said there that I hadn't thought about before, but the ability through a platform like Xometry to, in the face of a natural disaster, to basically shift the manufacturing to an area that's not being affected by the disaster. So I've got 100 questions around that. First of all, is that seamless to the buyer? Is the buyer aware that that's being done, or is that seamless to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's largely seamless. There could be some instance where the part was in midway and we had to start it new somewhere else, but we're still gaining incredible help from a timing standpoint and minimizing whatever delays that can exist. But yeah, when a customer orders for us, it is our job to deliver the part. So that part of it is often if that was in fact happening, it's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. And the other thing that you mentioned, something that we heard and saw a lot during the early days of the pandemic, when when there was a shortage of personal protective equipment and a shortage of diagnostic supplies, when the supplies began to become available in overseas manufacturing sites, we couldn't find transportation because all the transportation containers were being used for other things. And then all of a sudden, because those containers that were available began to be taken up by PPE and diagnostics, if you were manufacturing toys, for instance, you couldn't get your parts to be delivered because all of the transportation was being taken up by the need to address the pandemic. So I think that's another very interesting thing that you can address with manufacturing resilience, I guess I'll call it, based on a platform like this. And I'm curious, when all of that was going on, what was happening in Zometry? I mean, were you guys like all hands on deck? How do we deal with this? What was happening at Zometry?
Yeah, we were, I mean, busy as can be, and look, like every company, we were figuring out how to work from home and finding all of that being successful, and, by and large. And I think we were really committed, and in many ways, the projects that we were working on, it was really easy for our company to say, oh my goodness, we've got to find a way to help this company build these things. And I wish I could talk about the wide range of things, but there's Maryland-based Clear Mask that where has delivered millions of masks that are clear so people can see them. It has been popular in hospitals and wide range. But when I go back to some of the temperature measurement devices and ventilator parts, it seems so important for us, the work that we're doing, and that really inspires the people at our company to go and help build these incredible things, and to help support the small manufacturers who are really getting the work done. So to be honest, we were incredibly busy, and at the same time really focused on how we can not just run our business, but how we can genuinely help the country and the world as much as we could on a wide range of projects. And we would see people come to us and they buy things from $5 small prototypes to $1 million plus production jobs. So there's one example I can think of where we ended up sourcing one job through like a number of small manufacturers in order to make the timeline that needed to happen that was COVID related, right? So it was really an all hands on deck to help deliver on these incredibly important projects.
That's amazing. Sounds like it was an exciting place to be. So I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out for a minute. One of the reasons, actually two reasons that I went into microbiology and therapeutics instead of engineering and plastics was because my father convinced me that plastics was going to China and that there wouldn't be a plastics industry in the US as I developed in my career. The other reason is I'm very passionate about biology, so that worked well for me. I'm curious if you see manufacturing coming back now as we need to become more resilient, to be better prepared for these kinds of natural disasters. Do you see manufacturing coming back to the US?
Absolutely. And I think, there are a number of pieces about that. I mean, look, on the one hand, companies are always going to make financial decisions based on how things are built. But I also think there has been a realization that we need to be able to build a lot of things and have the flexibility of building it here in the US. And I think, there's obviously a lot of buzz these days about infrastructure and lots of things that can be built across our country. So, we look at it very much as a way as this is a key time to not just rebuild, but like build and go forward. And, there's some amazing companies these days that, we get to see from sometimes in the early start when they're smaller and as they grow, that are building incredible things. So, when we look at what's happening with robotics and, aerospace and autonomous, there's some amazing things that are happening that are all about, building new exciting projects and programs. So we very much see a lot of, great opportunity coming in the near future.
All right, cool. Bill, there's a lot of questions coming in. This is clearly a fascinating topic to a lot of people. Rather than get into the questions now, there's at least two topics I want to cover before we do that. So I just want to let people that are asking questions know that we will definitely get to the questions. But before we do, the Capital M podcast that we started here at the Tech Council has been focused on capital markets and access to capital. Xometry has been successful raising capital. Do you have any thoughts about your experience, the company's experience with raising capital and the capital markets in general that you'd like to share?
Yeah, look, obviously we've kind of gone through a number of different rounds, and I'm lucky to work with a CEO and CFO and some others who've had some great experience and frankly have done a great job of running point on those. So while I've certainly obviously interacted with a lot of investors over the years, my focus in driving revenue for the company has very much to be focused on delivering results. And at times I kind of have a running joke over the years with Randy Altschuler, our CEO, and I'll say, hey, how did that meeting with the investor go? And he'll say, they asked about our sales today, right? And and it is a little bit of a joke, but his point is absolutely dead on, which is be really focused on delivering the business, delivering the growth, and ultimately as a company you're going to have a number of different options. And that has been, I think, a guiding thing for us, and certainly for me, which is, okay, how are we going to deliver our business today? How are we going to do this week? How are we going to do this month? And not just kind of have it as something far out in the future, but to be really focused on building that. I think another thing that I found interesting at different stages of our business, early on, having investors for us we have engineering customers, right? So having brands like a BMW, a GE, a Dell, a Bosch were helpful for us, particularly in our early days, because we could tell a story of these were customer of ours who became investors, right? So, at different stages of business, different investors, have different type of importance for running the business overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having been out there raising capital myself, having folks like you keeping the place running, keeping the revenue going, it's critical, it's important. So that's great. Thank you. And then I want to get into a little bit about the culture and the management philosophy, because Xometry is clearly part of Industry 4.0, maybe even Industry 5.0. And the way you're running the business, the way that you're helping build manufacturing resilience for others, what is that corporate philosophy and culture within the company like?
Yeah. So I think, for me, one of the exciting and amazing things has been that I joined Xometry when we were just about 5 years ago, when we were at about 30 people. And we're now at about over 400. So each year, the culture and the company has just honestly felt like a different company. These days I go to I do a new employee orientation every couple of weeks, and it's like we have 10 people, and I always keep in mind that would have been like a third of the company, back when I started. So I think for us, the challenge has always been to remain fast-paced and to be moving. And if we are going to make a mistake, we're going to make it going forward and trying something new, and looking at things in a different way. I think our people have been such an incredibly important part of bringing new ideas to Xometry. And one of the things I love about this company is that we have an incredible mix of like people who are really deep in manufacturing, in 3D printing and machining or something like that. And then we have a mix of people who don't bring a manufacturing background at all, but they're amazing software engineers, or finance folks, or marketers. And so they're able to bring a very unique mix of doing this in a different way. And in fact, there isn't like a pathway of a company that has done exactly what we've done. We are the ones who are, paving the road as we drive on it. And I think that, what that means is it's often good discussions we have about, okay, here's a new idea. Can we do it that way? Can it be done? Can we be successful? And that for us has been one of the driving things. And I think like all companies, we're obsessed with continuing to move fast. And we always feel like we should be, moving faster. I also think we're very obsessed with making things better for our customers and for our buyers and our sellers, right? Our customers and our manufacturers. How do we make it just a little bit easier for them? And from a product standpoint, from a sales support or otherwise, like we've always got a long list of how can we make that experience even better? And prioritizing is one of the key challenges. But I think as a company, we're very much focused on that. And I kind of go back to, a little bit of what you were talking about kind of during the pandemic, where as a company, everybody gets excited each day about the incredible things that we're able to build. I mean, we're working with, over 40% of the Fortune 100, a wide range of really big companies down to really small companies who are all doing amazing projects. And sometimes we're just like that one little small part of a larger project, but it's incredibly important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Bill, not only is that incredibly important, you're incredibly popular. The number of questions that have come in is amazing. Before we jump into it, normally I would monopolize your time longer, selfishly asking questions that I was interested in. But before we get into the Q&A, is there anything that we've not discussed that you want to make it a point to discuss before we start getting into the questions here?
Just looking back at my notes for a second, but no, I think we've gotten to many of the main topics. So thank you.
Okay, great. Well, then I'm going to jump into the questions. The first one here from Mike Galeazzo is: are you seeing any shortage of skilled workers in companies that are part of your network?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a focus for us, and finding great people for our small manufacturers is a key focus. In fact, one second, we actually just released we do a survey that we announced last week of our small manufacturing index, and there's some really interesting results overall about it. But I'm just looking at the latest. 47% of small manufacturers plan on hiring this quarter, with 50% of respondents reporting that having the ability to find skilled employees is having an impact on their hiring for the next 6 months. So that tells you right there that half, and we actually do the survey half, but both within our network as well as small manufacturers outside of our network. So the data I said there cuts across both, which is, Mike, as usual, you're dead on correct. That is absolutely incredibly important. And some of the work that Mike and others are doing in the manufacturing industry in Maryland is incredibly important to helping many of them.
Great, thank you. There's another question from Karen Kalansis. So Karen, if you don't know her, does amazing work with early stage companies and assisting companies in the ecosystem here in Maryland. And she's asking whether or not the manufacturers you work with are willing to do one-off prototypes for early stage companies, startups, and then work with those companies as they tweak and develop and improve the product before they go into commercialization.
Yeah. First of all, absolutely. I mean, we do jobs from $5. So, if somebody uploads a part, we can get it done. And we do work in some ways on design for manufacturing feedback, I think, particularly in areas like injection molding, which is very much, as you kind of know, an iterative process. So there's, some back and forth. Our job is many ways to deliver it on point. So, there can be others who can provide, detailed project. Like there may be other times where there could be somebody else who's better adept to do it. But in general, we are going to help, particularly for, building larger jobs, we're going to help provide often feedback. For us, in many ways, it's a conversation of what is the right way to do things, right? And a lot of our engineers have questions about, okay, if I use this method over here of 3D printing, will it be able to withstand heat of XYZ, right? If I do this, will it be able to float? Will it be able to withstand? So a lot of that, the design for manufacturing process is incredibly important, because the designers, they often know exactly how to build a chair or a robot, but what they don't have the knowledge in is what's the most efficient way to actually produce it. So a little bit of feedback, the difference between a straight edge or a curved edge can be an incredibly important aspect for price, then that you're able to get feedback on.
Yeah, and choice of materials can be critical. I mean, there's so many reasons to get the manufacturer involved early in order to be successful.
Absolutely. And, for us, in many ways, with, oftentimes we'll see small jobs that come in, and, we work with a lot of big companies, and even the smaller growing companies. Those jobs, the quantity 10 can come back easily and be a quantity 100, and then a quantity 1,000, and then quantity 10,000, right? So we often see that, and we, getting that back to the shops, providing the option to get it back to the shops that did the initial part, make a lot of sense as well.
So we have a question from Evelyn Lewis asking, can you start, how quickly can you start assembly or manufacturing components? And what do you need from a buyer to do that, to start quickly?
Yeah, from a buyer, we need just the CAD file uploaded to our site. We give you a price, and you can pay with a credit card right there, or we have POs and accounts with a lot of big companies who order that way, and the job gets going almost immediately.
And so you mentioned starting from a CAD file. So the follow-on question here is can you also start from concept? In other words, could you also engage the engineering firm that would create the CAD file that would ultimately result in the manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, we don't create the CAD files for people. It's an area of interest, but there are a lot of very good firms and others who do that. So we generally start with when you have the CAD file.
Okay, interesting. So Michael's asking another question, and that is, how will 5G, the deployment and implementation of 5G, impact or affect Xometry's future? Well, and then there's a follow-on question that we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a silver ball on that one. Hopefully, it will create a lot of different projects that we can help with.
Understood. So asking you to get that crystal ball out again, what new platforms will you see emerging in the future, do you think?
Look, I think for me, one of the great things for us is the ability to offer a wide range of manufacturing capabilities. So, for us, because in traditional manufacturing, you have to, buy the machines and build the factory and hire the people to offer something. In our world, we have to find the manufacturer who already has it and is great at building it. So, we keep our eye very closely on what are the new and exciting capabilities that may be of interest. We listen really closely to our customers and what capabilities they're asking us for, because in many ways we are kind of the Walmart, if you will, of offering a wide range of different capabilities, and providing that opportunity to customers. So from my standpoint, we just not that long ago announced some new parts, some new materials we're offering through Stratasys, right? We added HB multijet. a year or two ago. We added carbon. So we're regularly bringing out new and different types. We work with X1, another binder jet. So, there are a number of different capabilities that we are adding to our platform, and how we expand and offer even more capabilities is incredibly important.
So that strikes a question in my mind. Is there any manufacturing that you don't do at this point?
There is some. I won't get into all the details, but yes, there certainly are different pieces. But we'll get to some of those later, hopefully.
Okay, great. So Robert Stone.
Sorry, just to go back to that. We look at custom manufacturing demand. It's like a over $250 billion industry. So in many ways, while we're offering a wide range of capabilities, for us, we're just beginning to crack many of these different things. So I would tell you there's a long list of things that we'd love to add to our platform as we continue to grow as well.
Okay. So Robert Stone is asking the question: could you start a project from a 3D scan, send back, so basically start with the 3D scan, somebody would have to create the CAD file, send it back for approval, and then use that to initiate a manufacturing project?
I would probably have to defer to one of my engineers, but you'd have to have the CAD for us to be able to price it. So that's the key part for us.
I see. Okay. So here's a question from Janet Hall about quality control. So quality is important to everybody, but in some highly regulated industries, it's critically important. How do you work within quality management systems and ensuring quality, ensuring compliance, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I could have our head of operations, who spent his whole career in automotive and a wide range of other businesses, probably talk to you for hours about it. But in many ways, we take it incredibly seriously. We have multiple checks on quality, both in making sure it's the right partner taking a job, and then there's a wide range of different manufacturing certifications and different things that are particular to certain jobs that we take incredibly seriously. And I think over time, we know how important it is to deliver quality parts to our customers. And I think our retention rates and our the folks coming back to buy from us demonstrate that we're doing it quite well. But it is always something that's obviously incredibly important in running a distributed network in particular.
All right, so I think Karen is reading my mind, because the next question I was going to ask you was, tell us, if you're a manufacturer, how should a manufacturer go about initiating contact with you? And if you're someone in need of manufacturing, you're a buyer, how should they go about getting in contact with you? And Aaron, if there's any contact information you want to put in the chat room, please do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, we're completely hands-on here. So you can send me and Aaron an email, and we'll get you exactly to the right spot. But for, on our site, you can easily go and sign up to become a partner, which begins the kind of partner onboarding process. There's no cost to sign up at all. And, we evaluate the partners and ultimately, move the ones that qualify onto the platform. And on the buyer side, you simply come to our website, you give us your email and create an account, and you upload a file, and we'll give you a price. Great.
And for everybody, Aaron just put in the chat room both Bill's email address and Aaron's email address, so you have those available. He also put the website address for Zometry as well, so you've got that information in order to follow up with them should you need to. So Bill, let's have a little bit of fun. When we first met, you told us about working with the International Space Station. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So I'll go back to my early, because coming full circle, where this is where I get to, become the rocket engineer that I wanted to in the past. But no, we're thrilled to have NASA as a customer, and we've got a great case study. Maybe Aaron, we could put attach the video into the chat here so folks could see it. There's both a written and a video version of a case study, and it's great. It's basically some large machine parts that are part of the air purification unit that is destined to go to the International Space Station. I think it's been pushed back a little bit, but as you would expect, NASA was under tremendous time rush to get this project ready, and we were able to provide something that saved their cost by something like 75%, and gave them a 4-week lead time versus several months, which they had previously had available. So we were thrilled to help them with this project, and for us, it's exciting to see parts that we get to work on go into space, and we also have literally things that go literally to the bottom of the ocean. So our things that are made through Zometry cover about as far as you can.
That's great. That's great. So kind of getting back to the culture and philosophy, you shared with me a photograph in an email of a map that you keep on the wall, which is an upside down view of the map of the world. I'd never seen that map before. It was very, very unique, and it does give you a different perspective. Tell us about that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I first saw this map when I was working closely with a number at the MasterCard Australia office, and what I loved about it is that it takes something that you take for granted and think of in one way, and it shows you that there's always a different way to look at things. And so I've had it hanging in my office for years, and sometime when I didn't have an office, I had it hanging in our basement, and my kids, I think, started to get confused. And but I think for me, what it shows you is that oftentimes you're looking at a problem and you're looking at data and you're focused on it and you can't crack it, but you've got to somehow turn it around and look at it in a different way, and suddenly it can reveal something completely different that you've missed. And often it's kind of sitting in front of you there all along. But for me, it's the whole point that there's always a new and interesting way to look at things that is beyond the way you typically do. And that's why I keep it on the wall, to kind of remind myself and others on the team to always have that in mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that my father said to me early on when he was teaching me tool design engineering, he said, if you ever get stumped and you can't quite figure out an engineering issue, go to the toy store, because somewhere somebody's invented a toy that has accomplished what you need to accomplish in that engineering design. Yeah.
It's a lot of truth. I think we sometimes talk about we do a lot of great content. In fact, we put an engineer onto our marketing team here to build all sorts of great content, because that's what engineers and designers all really love. And I remember him saying, okay, what should we do for injection molding? Maybe we should just go to a toy store, right? It's all there, right?
That's right. That's right. Everything that you can do in injection molding is there in the toy store somewhere. Yeah, fantastic. Bill, is there anything else that you would like to add this afternoon?
No, look, first of all, thank you. I think we love being based here in the Maryland, DC area, and between Mike Galeazzo, who I know is here as well, and the Maryland manufacturing world and the Maryland Technology Council, we love working with many customers, partners, manufacturers in the area. And one of the great things about being based here and is having access to all the wonderful institutions and whether it's government, but life science, technology. There's so many great and exciting parts about the area here that help us find people. We're always looking for more great people. So please certainly check out our career site if you're interested. But we appreciate all of the work you're doing and others to help build the tech community as well. And our hope and vision is that we get to continue to become one of those larger tech companies that really kind of stakes a place and helps a lot of people be successful around here.
So first of all, I think you're well on your way to becoming one of those larger tech companies. And we really appreciate your support of the Maryland Tech Council, your support of manufacturing in Maryland and frankly throughout the world. We appreciate everything that you're doing for us, for our members, for the industry. Those of you, just a reminder, Aaron has put contact information in the chat room. If for some reason you couldn't copy it or couldn't get it, you can send an email to Maryland Tech Council, and we'll be able to give you the information that you need in order to get a hold of Bill or others at Zometry. We're happy to help facilitate those connections. Bill, thank you again so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you're doing. The Zometry platform is amazing. I think you guys are onto something really big here. I think you're going to be single-handedly responsible for improving the manufacturing resilience of this country overall, which is amazing. And just appreciate the fact that you're here and that you're supportive of all the industries. Thank you.